9:30. I was like, I don't know what time it was. I'm just going to ask her.
I think it was right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike, you are all set.
Great. Today is April 19th. This is the Victor Zoning Board of Appeals. I'd like to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We need to approve the April 5th minutes. Can I get a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion for approval for the April 5th minutes that were corrected.
Thank you, Donna. Fred, I thought I saw your lips move, but you got to unmute yourself. Nope, still can't hear you. Sarah, would you like to second it?
Sure, I'll second.
Awesome, very good. Fred. Sorry, Fred, we'll get you the next time.
Am I on now?
You are, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Matt abstains, right? You weren't here last time? Okay, great.
Abstain.
All right, so we have 3 continuations. First is the Robbins Pergola. I want to thank you, Linda, for resubmitting that drawing. It's much clearer. And I think everything is in order, just as you said. So thanks for submitting that. So Matt, just to get you up to speed, at the last meeting, Fred had picked up on, there was a, I guess a glitch in the drawing, and it wasn't matching up to what the proposal was. So to make sure that everything was clear and on point, Linda went back to the designer and got a few of the glitches, well, the main glitch cleared up. So they are requesting the 5 feet from the property line. So to me, it all makes sense. So let's just circle around. Fred, do you have any other questions?
Well, there's still 4'6" gap between the steps and the start of the pergola. If the pergola moved over to the edge of the steps, the request for a variance would be about half, be 9'6".
All right, so you're still concerned that there's
4'6" setting
I see it.
in there that could come out of the variance. I guess it's going to be a little sidewalk or grass or pavers or something between the steps and the pergola.
So the Linda, the surface area that he's referring to, that 4'6", is that what is that?
I think she's muted.
Oh, where did she go?
She was talking and nothing was coming out, so.
I don't see her.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
There you go.
Did I disappear?
No, we just couldn't hear you. That's all. I could see your lips, but I couldn't see you're talking.
You know, I think my husband usually wishes for that to happen.
No,
I can see your lips
believe
moving,
that.
but I hear nothing. I'm kidding. I can say that only because he's not here. So what we did since the last time the board met, and it was actually helpful for me because I don't look at plans very often, and I don't, I need to kind of move in a space or set it out and pretend I'm in it. So that's exactly what we did. So we did call back and meet with the contractor. And we remeasured it. We walked out here and tried to walk up those pretend steps and all of that, just to kind of make sure that what he was envisioning, we were envisioning, and all of that. And we did clear up that other line that was on the drawing. That's not to work, it's not there. But the landing that you see there at the top of the steps, which is 4 feet 6 inches up, okay, yep, it's right there. So what that represents, and I understand it better now too, as a result of talking to him and clarifying. So when you go up your steps to your upstairs, or down the steps from your upstairs, and there's a landing there. If you'll notice, there's a post for the pergola. I don't want that. We have 2 goals. There's going to be a patio there, or there's going to be a pergola there. There's going to be something there because there's a retaining wall. My goal is to make it, because it makes sense to use that space and have shade there, to make that the space for our pergola. So we've identified that. Secondly, my priority and Tim's priority is to make it functional and make it fit with what we've done with the rest of the property, and do it justice, because we're spending a lot of money. We want the house to look right. That said, those are our 2 goals. So what you see there, that 4 foot 6 inch landing, I cannot envision coming up stairs and not having a landing and having furniture or a post there at all. To me, that is not functional. I can't imagine coming down the steps and not having a landing and just having furniture right there. So in our minds, there's 2 ways we can do this. We can do it as drawn with the landing and have our pergola go back to the, no farther than the 5 foot from the from that property line, keeping that 4 foot 6 inch landing so that the post isn't encroaching. So we've got area to move around, or, our next, and have the permanent structure that we feel is solidly constructed, safe, there all the time. Or honestly, just scrap it and say, we're going to have a surface patio. We're going to go to Home Depot or Wayfair and put up a pop-up temporary, and we'll take that surface patio to the lot line, to 1 inch to the fence. That's not there yet, but will be there. And just put up a pop-up. It's not our preference, but we've gone back and forth so much on what, seems to be disproportionate for a shade pergola at this point, that we feel we can either do it as drawn there and do it so it's functional and is there and enhances the house and property, or we will do the surface patio and put something up temporarily, which is not our preference. I don't want to be difficult. It's got to be functional if we're going to spend this money and do it.
Mhm. Any other questions, Fred?
Does a landing there make sense to you, Fred?
I don't see why the stairs wouldn't lead right to the pergola without a landing.
Well,
The
because,
pergola would be a landing.
say that again?
If the steps could lead right up to the floor of the pergola, so there wouldn't be any need for a landing.
Well, but you see there's a support post right at the top of those steps. In addition, you're going to have chairs there. I can't imagine it being a very workable solution to come on up those steps and a post is there and furniture. I don't see it. It's not functional and it won't work.
I wondered what that square was. Does it go on up above the floor level of the pergola?
So when you see a pergola, there's footers there.
Uh-huh.
Those are support beams that hold the roof part of the structure, the shade part. So I don't want that blocking my stairs. I mean, you've got potentially grandkids and everything else going up. And I mean, I wouldn't want a post in front of my steps. I also wouldn't want to be coming right up to where the chairs are.
It makes it kind of sound like the stairs are too close to the house if they were back 2 or 3 feet away from that post, it'd be clear.
Well, that's exactly why we've got the steps and the 4'6" space there, is to give you some room. Do you see what I'm saying? There's not a post. The post is 4 feet 6 inches back. So yeah, that's our point. If you move everything forward, you're going to have a support post right next to the steps. And that is not functional. It's not safe. I mean, it might be code. I don't think it's safe. So those are our options, I think.
You okay for now, Fred?
Yep.
All right, Matt, you got questions on this?
No, I think I'm okay. I agree with the applicant. Also, I kind of weigh that I know the code, considers a pergola a structure because it's a footer in the ground, but we're not necessarily talking about a shed or something with a solid wall. I too wouldn't want to have the base of that, I'd want it as far away from the steps as possible. So I think they've made some good trade-offs here.
Donna, any other questions you have on this?
Nope, I was happy with what you did. Thank you.
Sarah, any questions?
Nope.
Okay, great. Fred, you're all set on this for now?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, Linda, thank you so much for cleaning up that drawing. It makes sense, and I understand the landing piece. We're not trying to micromanage it, but I think also to the applicant's benefit, to the east, it's an open with lots of vegetation. So I think that plays into this with at least having it as close to the lot line as the applicant is requesting. For hypothetical, if these were different properties, and I think it's, if the house 60/20 was to the east, I think this might be a different situation, but we already heard from the applicant that they're going to keep as much of that vegetation there as possible. So that plays into it. So what I'd like to do is walk through the criteria. Just need to open it up.
And honestly, just to interject, I mean, if we could actually, if I had the power to go next door and plant additionals, I would. That's why we bought this property. It was because it had a natural boundary from everything. It feeds the birds all during the winter. We love it. That was the whole selling point for the property.
Okay. I had the resolution. Just give me a second here. I just lost it. There it is. Okay, so let's walk through the criteria here. Certainly this is open for discussion for the board members. First one being, an undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by the granting of an area variance. As indicated, the property to the east is, I wouldn't say it's vacant, but there's a lot of vegetation there. And that plays into the applicant's request to be within 5 feet of the lot line. Also, the slope of the land, the topo makes it difficult to place a pergola, as well as I think there's a septic system on this property, right?
Exactly.
And with the proposed pool. So given all those factors, that the applicant has done their due diligence on placing the proposed pergola in the best place suited on the property. Would anyone else like to add anything else for the first criteria? Second, the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Same factors as before. While there is room on the west side of the property, it's impractical. It doesn't seem to make sense or fit what the applicant is looking for, to be close to the pool, close to the house. Anyone else want to add anything else to the second criteria? The third is the requested area variance is substantial. 5 feet to the lot line is substantial. However, the buffering and again, lot of vegetation to the east, I think mitigates the fact that it is substantial. Anyone want to add anything else to the third criteria? Fourth, the proposed variance will not have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. There isn't anything that we've seen that there be any indication that it will have any kind of environmental or physical detriment to neighborhood or the district, especially with the applicant, again, wanting and desiring to keep as much of the vegetation on their property as possible. Anything else in the fourth criteria?
None.
No, you're okay, man. You were waving. I thought you wanted something. The alleged difficulty.
All right, just plugging in a power cord.
Okay. The alleged difficulty is self-created. The consideration is relevant to the decision of the board, but not necessarily preclude the granting of an area variance. I don't see that there is. Oh, before we go on, Lynn, is there any lighting on this, on the pergola at all?
No,
Okay.
it's really intended to just be a shade pergola so that we
Okay.
don't.
I mean, so if there was, it would have to be dark sky compliant, but that's per code. So if you were to consider adding any kind of lighting to it, to illuminate the sitting area, it would have to be dark sky compliant, but that's code. So I don't think we need to put that in there as far as.
As of now, we're not looking at anything like that.
Okay.
I mean, the pool has lights. I wouldn't by code, so no.
Okay, great. Does anyone want to add anything else to the factors that I've put in for the 5 criteria? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you,
It's
Sarah. Second,
I'll second it.
thank you, Donna. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
1.
Okay, Fred opposed.
I'm glad
Okay.
it passed.
Good luck, Linda. Thank you so much for your patience. Hopefully it was well worth it, but it helps us keep order, at least for zoning applications, making sure everything is, if you will, spot on for what the applicant is asking for.
I completely understand. I do have a question though.
Go ahead.
So what has to transpire at this point for either the pool or the pergola? What is my next step for you guys?
As far as
Is
moving
there
forward,
anything I need to do after this point? Before?
well, as far as building permits,
Yep.
all right, Marty, do you want to help with the building permit process?
Yeah, so Linda, at this point, our office will, if we already have the permits in process, we'll finish the review. Now that you've gotten your approval for the variance, and then Kim or Lisa will be in touch with you to let you know when those permits are ready. If you haven't submitted yet for a permit, then you need to do that. But that would be the next step is obtaining the permits for both the pool and the patio.
So yeah, I believe, but I am not certain that the contractor for the pool did submit. He said he didn't hear back from anybody, so he wasn't sure.
Okay,
I have no idea.
so I can follow up on that tomorrow, first thing when I get in the office, and we'll double check. It'll either be Al or myself that has the permits if they were submitted.
Okay,
And then we'll have either one of us or Kim contact you and let you know what needs to be done next.
perfect.
As far as
Thank
the
you so much.
variance goes, usually it takes a day or two to at least finalize. Kim puts together the resolution, plugs in all the criteria that we just talked about tonight. I'll sign it, and then it's a formal resolution granting the variance you requested.
Okay, so that's perfect. I just didn't know what steps I needed to take.
Okay, other questions?
Not from me.
Good. hopefully you're going to enjoy the summer with your pergola and pool.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You
You
too.
too.
Thanks so much. Okay. I thought I saw Paul someplace. Where'd you go, Paul?
How are you, Mike?
There you are. Okay, you moved on me on the screen. All right. I'm well, thank you. I noted that the application has been amended to 50 square feet. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. I think still in play is the county planning board recommending a denial. And I think, as you know, in order to get a variance for this, what needs to be done is a majority plus one. And you had requested at the last meeting that since there were just 4 members, is to hold it over and present this today. So we have all 5 here today. And I appreciate at least the willingness to reduce the signage. I think, I don't think it's Marty, it might have been Al, did some homework and followed up. The only sign that is not in compliance is the Sherwin-Williams sign. All the other signs are in compliance on the plaza. So with that, anything else you want to add before we circle around and ask the board if they have any questions?
Yeah, just real quickly, we spoke last time about the temporary banner, and the question was, what is the size of the font on that temporary banner? It was viewed, I think, by many of the members. So we went to the sign vendor, and Emily, who's with me tonight, asked the vendor to share that graphics of the font with us, and it's actually a 20-inch font on the upper Brooks and Harlow piece, and then Salon is 15 inches. And given what I thought was the board's temperature relative to the visibility and the viewability of that temp banner, we reduced the square footage to match that. And we were last time presenting 60 square feet. We brought that down to what now the request of 49.2, or what we call 50 square foot option. And, all the reasons still apply. I think we had a good, healthy dialogue about, how it would look in the renovated facade. I did present the facade renovations to the planning board last week. They were received very favorably. They just could not render decision given county referral, but I will be back before planning board next Tuesday, and I anticipate an approval, and we would go forward with constructing the facade renovations as you see them. So that's all I just wanted to add, Mike, and we're open to any questions, and whatever Emily or I can answer, we're happy to do so.
So the graphic that's the rendering that's being shared now, where it says 50 square foot option, is that the scale?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so what I'm looking at it is I scan across from, if you will, left to right, the signage that's there, if it's the scale, and then matching it to the proposed 50 square feet for your applicant, I think is helpful on what it looks like as you go right across the plaza.
Yep. It's it is drawn to proportion.
Great. Sarah, do you want to have any follow-up questions, concerns?
Nope, I have nothing further on the application.
Okay. Donna, questions, concerns?
None, thank you.
Fred?
Paul, how high are the smaller letters? Not the leading ones, but the trailing letters. How
So the upper font, Brooks and Harlow, is 20 inches, and the lower is 15 inches, Fred.
the
So Salon
landing
is
sign is 18 inches, and so is the Victor Vet Care. So the Brooks and Harlow will be slightly smaller than those.
that's correct.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Matt, questions?
Very readable. Even 15, I think even 15 inches would be very readable, but 18 is fine with me. Kind of goes with the rest of them.
Quick question, in each of the three, is the Fisher's Landing lettering the same in each of the pictures?
Yes, yeah, that's been consistent.
Okay. You know, it comes down to me the purpose of the sign. I just still don't really see it as something that from the road people are really going to catch. I'm much more in favor of if you came here and said maybe the Fisher's Landing side, you know, the Fisher's Landing sign or letters needed to be a little bigger or something, as everybody in the plaza would benefit from that being associated with Fisher's Plaza and not just granting one of the looks like 8 or 9 other applicants larger signage to be visible. I really don't see too much. I know it's hard to tell here, too much difference between the, you know, what's allowable by code and the extra 16 square feet overall. Again, I kind of look at it like I was maybe hoping there was going to be maybe an option or something that said, look, what if we increase the Fisher's Landing signage a little bit so that either everybody benefits, it's higher, it'd be more easily visible, and then everyone obviously associates with Fisher's Landing, kind of like what the code is intended to do. I agree. I mean, in the renderings here, you know, Fisher's Landing is about the same size. It just looks like it. Now, obviously, it probably isn't. But in the picture you're showing here, I'm on the third. I'm on slide number 15.
Still have the slide where it depicted the 34 square foot sign. I feel like when I look at that picture, it just doesn't look very proportionate to the area that it's on, and that was part of it as well. And knowing that my unit extends from that one pillar to the other pillar, and that my business would be the only one in that middle portion, it just that one looked almost like disproportionately small to me, whereas the 50 or the 60 square foot sign I felt looked a lot more proportionate for the new facade.
Well, I mean, everybody has the same calculation they're using, right? If you look at, you know, based on the frontage that they have, I don't particularly look at it. When I look at it, the only thing I really see as out of place is the Fisher's Landing sign. To me, that should probably be larger than the subordinate signs underneath it. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I just don't see I don't think you're going to get the benefit from going from 34 to 50. And it's really not intended to be a sign that you read flying down 96, looking down the hill, you know, at whatever the speed limit is there, 45, 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, and I think the big thing with Emily's sign is that it's on 2 lines. So as we calculate signage, as you know, it's the polygon that goes around, you know, the 4 sides. So in that, what is being calculated as 49.2 square feet is a lot of dead space, right? It's not truly actually 49.2 square feet of signage. It's just that the copy is on 2 lines and we have to calculate that polygon around. So I think, you know, had we not had the name, the way that it is, the way her business is identified, we're forced to use the way the calculation is required. So you get it. And we're trying to make it proportional with that new facade. And we felt pretty strongly that it looks nicer and balances out that space. Otherwise it's gonna be a lot of dead space. We prefer to have the 50 square foot option, and we've continually reduced it, knowing the board's sensitivity to this and trying to represent that we want to find a healthy balance here.
Sure, I'm with you. I look at all the other signs; they are just as difficult to read as others. They all have their own unique thing about them, right? Geometrically. Again, I I would be much more supporting of a larger Fisher's Landing sign, again, something that everybody benefits from. I'm only one vote, but in a situation like this, to me, where each of the businesses are really anchored to Fisher's Landing, I think it would be a good compromise. I guess I would say that I support. I'm good for now.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The concern that I have, I'll just review what it's much what I said at the last meeting, is the argument of filling the space. That's really not what the code requires or how it analyzes it. It's the squares around the letters, and I think you touched on that, Paul, and that's how it's calculated. So if you were to move that that same sign, and put it on a facade that, let's say, over by where Enterprise is, or anything else other than where that A-frame peak is, there's not as much space there. So the arguments say, well, gee, there's more space there, so we should be able to have bigger letters. That doesn't sit well with me. Just because it's there doesn't mean you get more space for your letters. And the other concern is on how these letters fit. The variance is going to run with the land. So while we hope your tenant stays there a long time and is prosperous and has great business, there's no guarantees that it's going to be there. She may grow her business and move elsewhere. But then now the new tenant is going to be permitted to have that same, if this board grants it, 50 square feet. And the lettering certainly could look different and maybe take up and look to be more ominous, larger than what these current letters are.
We did talk about having a sunset with this tenant as a condition for the granting of the variance. And we'd be agreeable to that as a landlord.
So let's touch on that a little bit. I'd like to hear what the board thinks about that. Matt, what do you think? If this board grants the variance at 50 square feet and as a condition, it's a sunset provision, meaning it's just for this tenant. If she were to move or grow, they'd have to start over, and that the variance goes away.
Are we allowed to do that? I mean, I know over the 15 years, I think I've almost been on the board. We've talked about it, and I'm never quite sure if we've gotten a clear, yes, we can do that or not. I mean, there's ways to make it maybe sunset in the code, saying it has to read BROOKS, and no other sign is allowable. I guess I'm just kind of lukewarm on it. I'm open to everyone else's opinion on it. I just don't really see the benefit. I know maybe aesthetically when there's someone's walking up to it, it might look a little better if the space is filled out a little more. But again, I really just don't see the benefit. I think everybody else in that area is the same situation. I mean, Monroe Muffler's got some letters underneath it that I have no idea what it says, and others have different size things. But every time I've gone there for various different businesses, I think Lattimore's over there. I've always had to, find them via the internet, or it's those aren't businesses that you just kind of drive by and look for signage for. So I really just don't see the benefit, and I also don't see anything really unique about this application that almost every single company has come in front of us and said. I just don't think it's unique enough.
Okay. Fred, what do you think with the sunset provision or
Well,
not?
I don't really think it's necessary, because if this tenant moves out and another one comes in, occupies the same space and has the same frontage, they could have the same sign. If it's lesser, if it's cut in half, then signs will have to be adjusted per code. It's kind of taken care of.
Donna, what do you think?
I don't have a problem with it, the way that they're presenting it right now.
So you're okay with the request at 50 square feet, and you don't think a need for a sunset provision on this? Is that, do I understand you right or not?
Yes, you're exactly. That's
Okay.
what-
Sarah, what do you think?
So I am still opposed of the sign being 50 square feet. Even if it did have that provision of if she were to move out, then someone else would have to ask for a variance. I think that's putting an incredible burden on our building department staff to make sure that that is handled going forward. So, because it might not be for 10 or 15 years, and we're banking on the fact that everyone remembers that there was a variance for this particular sign.
Okay. I am probably closer to Matt and Sarah's camp on the signage and looking from the county planning board, and you know, Paul, we've gone through this before. Any kind of signage, they're going to deny it, and I just can't get my arms around the, or if you will, accepting the argument just because there's that space there. It should be filled up with letters. And touching on before, on the previous, I think it was the last meeting, advertising, I think it's signage. I think it's I don't want to use the word useless, but the effectiveness doesn't seem to be there as where it used to be, especially with, as I envision, salons and its referrals and people coming in by word of mouth. So I don't think if you're driving down 96 that you're going to say, oh, gee, there's a salon, and they're going to go, that's right, that's where my destination is. They know because they've been there, appointments have been made. So I think I'm in Matt and Sarah's camp on this. If there's something else you want to add or talk about before we take a look at the resolution, I'd be happy to listen to it.
Yeah, I think all I would say is, I understand and appreciate you taking a hard look at this, being principally in the real estate business. The one thing that I hear from every single tenant in every one of our properties is the need for adequate signage. And Victor is a little unique in the amount of signage that they do allow at 1 square foot per linear foot. Penfield, Brighton, Harrington is 1.5 to 2 square feet per linear foot. So right out of the gate, my allowable square footage is larger. As you know, Fisher's Landing, the speed at which people are passing by, the fact that we're about 16 feet below the driver's eye level at the road. This isn't the first time I've been before you for signage. We would love to have a tenant directory. We think that the tenants who are investing in Victor in this plaza feel very strongly about that. And, Emily's case is not unique in the, like I hear from any other tenant, that signage is very important to them. They're making a significant investment. She's not a national corporation. She's a single proprietor. And we think that we try to achieve what the zoning board should be looking at, which is a balance, right? The benefit to the applicant versus the whatever detriment and or negative impacts could be perceived. I just don't see any negative impacts with with going for a 50 square foot versus 34. So I don't want to belabor it. We understand where your concerns lie, but I think we've demonstrated a willingness to compromise and try to strike that balance, which I think is what the goal always is with the zoning board.
I appreciate that. And we've told other applicants that when there is, what again sounds like trying to address, the codes in other municipalities allow different things. Well, if you believe that the code needs to be modified, changed, it really should be changed at the zoning board. It should be changed at the town board level, and you make your petitions, you contact your board members and say, look, the code needs to be changed. It's not fair to businesses, for example. And you're right that there is latitude that is given to the zoning board and addresses the benefit to the applicant and compares it to the community of itself. But also, you know, that 96 is the corridor. It's protected. It's a sensitive area. There's lots of businesses there. The town wants businesses there, but it can't be overridden with signs. So I think that's usually what we've been looking at up and down that corridor when we look at signs and seeing really, is there any type of unique situation that warrants something beyond what the code allows? So with that,
Can I ask a question, Mike?
sure, go ahead.
Paul or Emily, could you just have Brooks and Harlow on the sign? Because if I'm coming to you, I already know it's a salon. Or is that part of your name?
That is part of the name.
Okay, okay.
I have thought about that because, you know, just trying anything to get the sign more visible in that amount of square footage, but that's definitely a part of our branding.
That's part of your brand. That's fine. I wasn't sure. So it was just something that hit me and I thought, well, if I'm coming there, I would know already it's a salon. Would it need to be in there? But okay, thank you very much.
All right. Fred,
Mike?
anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a thought.
Go ahead.
With the 50 square foot proposal, the letters are the same size as the neighboring businesses. Why wouldn't this tenant be able to have the same sign size as letter size as the neighbors?
They have more frontage. It goes by the frontage. That's how
And
it's
it goes by,
calculated.
and it goes by the copies on 2 letters. So that's why we start to push above the, if we were able to do it on 1 line, we would be likely within that square footage. We wouldn't have any of the dead space.
Have you tried just all 3 on 1 line? Just the entire name on 1 line, or see what that does?
I think Emily would have to answer that. I think her brand and everything they do on social media and everything on all of their marketing collateral is as represented on the rendering.
Okay.
I'd have to change my whole logo and branding.
Just to make it all in 1 line. It would, I mean, Brooks and Harlow Salon on 1 line instead of 2. That's all I was. Does that increase your letter size? Right? Does the dead space that you eliminate help increase your letter size to what you were looking for?
I think it would, right? But
It would. We did look at that, Matt, and you know, but as Emily's kind of invested in all of her social media marketing and all of her
Okay.
other
Just an idea. I
collateral.
don't want to change anybody's.
Yeah, that copy just
branding,
is
what they
on
want.
it. Yep, it's on 2 lines.
Okay.
Other questions, concerns? Okay. So let's run through the criteria. First, being an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by granting of the area variance. First is that the county planning board reviewed this and recommended a denial. Also being in the 96 corridor, the board has taken a close and careful look at all the signage and look for anything that would be unique, and it doesn't find that this particular parcel or area creates any kind of unique situation that would allow a variance for greater what the code allows. Would anyone like to add anything else to the first criteria? Second, the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. It has to do with how the code is written and the lettering, which causes, I think, the applicant, and the size in the box, it creates a larger space than if it were on one line. But there are some alternatives, and the applicant has chosen that they want it to look like this. It's a name brand. I think we understand it. So anyone want to add anything else to the second criteria? Third, the requested area variance is substantial. It has been amended to 50 square feet, but the code allows for 34 square feet, and the board considers that to be a substantial request. Anything more on the third criteria? Fourth, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. There isn't anything that signage would have on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. Anything on the fourth criteria? Fifth, the alleged difficulty is self-created. The consideration is relevant to the decision of the board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. Would anyone like to add anything to the 5 criteria? Okay, then I would entertain a motion for denial. Sorry. Should have been on mute. So I would entertain a motion for a denial.
I'll second.
Well, who did the first?
I'll motion for the denial. Sorry.
Okay. Sarah, would you like to do the second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor of the denial, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed to the denial?
I,
One opposed. Okay. All right. Thank you. I wish you luck. I know you wanted different news, but that's the decision of the board. Good luck to you.
Thanks, folks.
Okay. Okay. Jenny and Jen, you're here for quick fill.
Yes.
All right. So the county planning board submitted its recommendation as a class 1. And I think the only comments that they had was the sprinkler. So is there going to be a sprinkler connected to the shed?
No,
There's no electricity, there isn't anything, is that right?
that's right.
All right. And there never will be. No
Right.
electricity. All right, and I think there was a comment about, isn't there a mature shade tree or something here?
didn't I speak about the green space being?
Yeah, well, I think that's the point, is that it's variants have already been granted on this parcel, and the green space is already limited. So it's going to be further reduced. But you're not considering taking any kind of vegetation out? There's any trees that you need to take down?
No, that mature tree will stay where it is.
I don't have it in front of me, but I think they said it would be something like 1% less green space than it is now.
Okay. So, let's start with Matt. We touched on a few things, but it's, well, actually 2 things that were of consideration. I think one is taking up more green space. And also that the shed was arguably forward of the store structure itself. But Alan made a comment, there was some discussion about the canopy, the pump canopy is actually forward of everything. And that canopy wouldn't be there if the, what you call it, a convenient storefront wasn't there. So I think the issue of the shed being forward of the storefront doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I follow that.
And I think, again, there was some discussion too about how much, oh, I had some notes here.
Can I ask Marty what he feels about that?
Sure, Marty, what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Al on that. If the gas canopy wasn't there, the convenience store would not be there, and so therefore the primary use of the property is the gas canopy. So as long as that shed is not forward of the canopy, which it's not, then that request for a variance would no longer be applicable.
So there it is. So the open space, there wasn't a variance that was granted back in 2013. And it was from 35% to 29%. And I think, Fred, what you're alluding to is with that shed being there, it's going to knock it down another percent.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I read too.
To 28%. And I remember doing this variance. I think it used to be Charlie's Hamburger or something that there, and it's a very tight spot there. So variances need to be granted in order for a business to go in there.
There used to be a rotary gas station.
Before the hamburger joint?
Used to be a
I don't,
gas station.
I don't remember the hamburger joint being there.
Mike,
Wasn't
I
that
think-
Charlie's?
that was down at the other quick fill.
Yeah,
Down by Fisher's Corners was
Yeah,
the
that
hamburger
was.
place.
that was, yeah.
Oh,
not
okay.
here.
Oh, yep. Okay,
here.
wrong quick fill. All right. Yeah, I think for what the applicant is asking for, dry storage, shovels and things that they just don't have the storage space for. I think it's in line. I would hesitate though, and you're not putting any demands out there. So, but I don't, after this one, if the board grants it, I don't think you can ask for any more variances. That just, you're maxing out and then some. So Matt, go ahead. If you got questions on this.
No, I'm all set. I was just agreeing with what you said. I'm okay with the request. It is a difficult site. It's I don't think that the shed is going to have any negative impact in regards to the criteria as we walk through them. I think the only other thing we have to talk about, I think, is does it need a sprinkler waiver?
Well, I think
Did I read that?
yeah, I think, well, go ahead, Marty, if you want to comment on it. I don't
Yes.
think- It
Yes,
does?
it would require a sprinkler waiver because it is considered a commercial structure, and with the town's more prohibitive local law, then yes, it would require a waiver.
But the applicant's going to have to resubmit that. It's not before the board currently.
That was part of my comments as
They did submit for a sprinkler waiver.
They do have, okay. So
Yeah.
yes, it is before the board for a waiver then.
All right.
And
the-
I believe the fire marshal also submitted comments based on that on March 31st.
Okay.
Yes, fire marshal seemed to be on board as long as there was no electricity or any type of heat installed. That there was no mulch surrounding the shed and that we had no smoking signs posted.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you. Who's leading? Jenny or Jen? Who's presenting? Just so I know who to ask.
Oh, Jen, you're there? I know she's there, but What's that?
I think it's on mute. I don't hear you.
On mute.
I don't see her either.
Yeah,
Oh,
she-
Oh, there
okay.
she is.
I see her.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, great. So
Okay.
Jen, are you okay with then the fire marshal's request that no electric, no heat, no smoking signs, no mulch? Um,
No heat?
Yes. Right. We were on board with all the fire marshal's comments.
Okay. Great. Okay then. Donna, any questions?
None?
Sarah, questions?
No, I have none.
Fred?
If 100 people went through there, they couldn't tell you if the shed was there or not. So I don't think it's going to make much difference in the appearance of the building.
Okay. So I'm taking it from that, you're okay with the application, Fred?
Yeah.
Donna, you're okay with it?
No,
You are not.
No.
What concerns do you have?
I just think we're cutting out more of that green space and we don't let anybody else, so I'm a no.
Okay, Sarah?
I think the green space, it's just a very minuscule amount that will be affecting at this point. But I am in agreement, Mike, when you say going forward, granting more variances would be even more difficult at this point. But with this shed, I'm okay with it.
Matt?
I agree. I'm okay with it as proposed.
Okay, great. All right. Before we entertain a motion, go through the criteria. Jenny or Jen, anything else you want to add? Okay. So I'm going to walk through the criteria. Marty, anything you want to touch on before I go through the criteria?
No, I would just request that because there's already an existing variance and it can get confusing, as was mentioned before, 10, 15 years down the line, that however the resolution is written, it's very clear as to exactly what's being allowed. That's all.
Okay. I'm looking for the proposed resolution and I'm not, hold on. There we go, found it. Okay. So we're gonna look at the, I think we're gonna do this in two parts because we need a waiver and a variance. And I keep pulling up the sprinkler. There we go. Okay, so this is the variance for the shed. First criteria, an undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties caused by granting of the area variance. While there was, I believe, multiple variances that were granted in 2013, specific to a reduction of the open space from 35% to 29%, a 120-foot shed, although would further reduce the open space, the amount of space that will be reduced by is approximately 1%. And on that note, that while this board would entertain any request for variances going forward, it's going to be harder and harder to convince this board, I believe, that more variances are needed. Would anyone like to add anything to the first criteria? Second, the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible to the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. The applicant indicated that due to the size of the, if you will, indoor store space, that they are significantly limited to storing things like shovels and cups and dry storage things. So they really don't have any other feasible option other than storing their equipment and goods off-site. Would anyone like to add anything to the second criteria? Third, the requested area variance is not substantial. Again, while they have had prior variances at this parcel, the 120 square foot shed is only going to add, or I should say take away, approximately 1% of open space. Anyone want to add to the third criteria? Fourth, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. There wasn't anything presented or of concern that this board feels that the shed will create a physical or environmental condition problem in the neighborhood or district. Anything else on the fourth criteria? Fifth, the alleged difficulty is self-created. The consideration is relevant to the decision of the board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. Also, as a condition, while it is going to be tied into the sprinkler issue, the applicant has indicated that there will be no heat, no electric, and only dry goods will be stored in the shed. Would anyone like to add anything to the conditions to the variance? Okay, we're all set. So I would entertain a motion for approval with the conditions presented.
I make that motion.
Thank you, Fred. A second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Matt. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, great. So now we're going to take a look at the sprinkler waiver. All right, and looking at the sprinkler waiver, we have found that the fire marshal has commented on the request for a waiver and has indicated that it would be acceptable provided that there was no electricity in the shed, no heat of any type used in the shed, no mulch in proximity of the shed, and no smoking signs to be placed on and in the shed itself. And this board has taken a review and looked at the economic hardship, and primarily the reason for the shed again is for dry storage goods, and in order for them to store those types of goods and equipment, they would have to be done off-site. As far as physical or legal impossibility, for what they're going to use the shed for, it doesn't seem practical for them to be required to put a sprinkler in the shed itself. The intended objective of this section again is to for safety, both for the owners of the property and for the firefighters, and we're not hearing anything that there would be any kind of danger to the firefighters or the property owners. The necessity in light of other viable alternatives in which meet the objectives of the code of the section. Again, I think it goes back to the safety and the applicant's willingness to adhere to the fire marshal's request for conditions for the sprinkler waiver. And again, we have the comments of the fire marshal in place here. So would anyone like to add anything else to the request for the waiver?
Did the fire marshal say anything about a fire extinguisher?
I did not see that.
But we could put one in place. That's not a problem.
All right, so you're, as a condition, you would have an available fire extinguisher in the shed itself?
Yes, if that's what you want, sure, we would do that.
Per the recommendation of the fire marshal as to the size and type.
Okay, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Jenny?
Yes.
Yes, very
Right.
much so.
Very good. Okay, that's good, Fred. Anything else? All right, I would entertain a motion for a sprinkler waiver on this parcel for the shed.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Fred. A second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, fantastic. I wish you the best of luck.
Okay,
Thank you all so much.
yes, thank you for your
Marty.
time.
You're very welcome. Thanks for your patience.
Can I ask Marty a quick question? I just wanted to make sure, is our application for the building permit still in your office?
Yes, if you applied, then, yep, as soon as we process the variances and the waiver, then we'll be able to issue the permit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you all so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, last meeting, Donna told us about some fun things that you learned at her training. Sarah, what fun things did you learn at your last training?
Well, the last training I went to was seeker training. So I'm not sure if I'm any more confused now than I was before. So I think us as zoning board members, we're very lucky that most things are type 2 actions, meaning they have very little to no impact on the environment, because all the other things there's much more involved with. So I think we're very lucky that most everything is type 2 actions.
That works for me. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right. Does anyone have anything else they want to share or talk about before we entertain a motion to adjourn? Very good.
The next meeting will be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for me.
Ha
I don't know if I'll be sitting out on the beach or what in Hawaii, but I'll certainly be thinking about you if I'm not on the meeting. I'm going to try.
Where are you
All
going to be,
right.
Fred?
Hawaii.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. 3
All
weeks.
right, and we talked about this last meeting that Fred was going to take a picture of I don't know, coconuts or whatever his garb is.
Be
and-
dancing girls.
all right. All right. Well, you have a good time.
All right.
Very good. All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion to adjourn?
A
Awesome.
second.
Very good. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Very good. Have fun, Fred.
See everybody
everyone
next
next time.
month.
Take care, everybody.